Welcome all to the regular meeting of this Calimesa City Council. It is now 6 p.m. and anybody wishing to make some comments or something, if they would please fill out a speaker slip and give it to the city clerk, would be appreciated, and we'll call you a name if when your time comes up. Darlene, could you do roll call, please?
Councilmember Cervantes?
Here.
Councilmember Manley?
Here.
Councilmember Molina?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hewitt?
Here.
Mayor Davis?
I'm here. And then we've got City Manager Cobo, City Attorney Barrow, City Clerk Gertis, Finance Director Reed, Planning Director Lucia, Public Works Director Ms. Monson, City Engineer Thornton, Fire Chief O'Connell, and Sheriff Captain Peterson. I'm sorry. Have these glasses aligned. When do you want to lead us in the pledge?
Sure. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I've got one communication from the public, and that would be Donna Johnson, if you want to come up and speak.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, my situation is that the 129 County Line Road, they did cut the weeds down. Now I have like 5,000 mice that are running around in my tree, leaping from limb to limb, running across my shed, down along my mobile, all in a line. They're in a line. So I don't know what to do, but I do see that in Calimesa, some of the restaurants and other places have boxes for mice. So we have a mouse problem in this area, do we?
I'll answer the question since I have a piece of property. Ever since they built houses behind me, I've had rats and mice, but I had them before anybody else moved in. It's just that they all sort of moved down on me. So, no, we have live traps set out. And it just catches them in a cage.
Right. Is there anything that I can do for the whomever owns that property next to me, that big field? Is there anything I can do to see if they can spray that field or do something about that?
I can't go there. I have no idea.
Okay. So we just don't know what to do about rats and mice, really.
I think with the rain, we've had a lot more. I mean, I know where we're at. I mean, we have 2 outside cats, and every morning I have a fresh package on my doorstep. So 1 or 2 or 3. So it's been a problem, but get some glue traps, maybe, or...
Oh, I have that, but you can't trap that many mice. At night, when it gets to be dark, and you can see the outline of them, they're in a line running along the top of the fence in a line like an army. I don't think you could trap that many. I now have ordered Mighty Mint to try to spray around to see if that will, deter them. But I just didn't know.
Don't leave any animal food out.
Oh, no, of course not. In the park, we're not allowed to do that, and we don't have cats. I mean, people have indoor cats, but you're not allowed to have outdoor cats. And they don't do us any good that way. So, okay, well, I thought maybe you had some suggestions or we just have that problem in Calimesa that we just have a lot of.
I think it's cyclical with the rain and stuff. lots of squirrels, some years we have lots of mice and rats.
Yeah.
We kind of live in a field area, you know, there's lots of empty space around us, so
Right.
I don't
Okay,
know.
well, I'm sorry I can't help you. You know,
Well,
it's-
that's okay, but you could come and spend the night at my place, and then you can listen to them at night when they sound like a herd of elephants,
Okay.
you know, banging on my walls and running under my tub. And I thought, if they ever got in there, if they found a way to all of them get in there, I'd have to leave.
Okay, well, let's see, you're done. Thank you. Okay. Approval of the agenda, consent calendar, and waiver of full reading of ordinances. Anybody got anything they want to pull, or they want to go ahead and make a nomination?
If no one's pulling anything, I'll move to approve the agenda and consent calendar and waive full readings of ordinances.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Peterson, you got enough energy to make it up there?
Oh, yeah. Pain's gone, crutches are gone. You making fun of me is almost done. I'm in the home stretch.
Bless you.
Council, thanks for having me tonight. I know, I guess last week now, what would have been our public safety meeting. We went, not just us, but live to the world, and I was hoping some caught some of that and did some overall as we talked about a variety of things in not just crime trends, but the actual flow of Calimesa, times a day, days a week, future trends that we have coming and things like that. One of the follow-ups I had, and it kind of led to, we did a talk there, and I wanted to kind of re-emphasize it, the horses, motorcycles, and my off-road world that we get called upon. As I talked about with the Sheriff's Department, you know, we have a very large off-road enforcement vehicle, off-highway vehicle, I will say team. Massive rigs, lots of vehicles, and they go to the deserts, they go to, Hemet, San Mateo Canyon, some of those places that are just a consistent motorcycle riding areas for us, as we obviously have county ordinances and those kind of things to shut those kind of things down. As I talk to not just the patrol guys, but Deputy Hinkle a lot in Calimesa, we don't have that consistency that we fight. And that is part of why I haven't pushed the button on, as I talk to the other commanders in these areas, recently I was talking to the Temecula captain about it. They know every Sunday morning from this time to this time, they are having large groups of riders off lower 79, areas for them that it's easy for us to then send out, I'll say, that strike team, for lack of a better term. As I talk to the deputies for Calimesa and Deputy Hinkle, we just find it's the onesie twosie, and it's very sporadic and all over the place. So I haven't wanted to push a button on a very large operation for us obviously having nothing. And so those parts of things I do. I just kind of wanted to reiterate and reemphasize for the public. We do go after them. We do tell them obviously when we can catch them that it's not allowed, potential citations and all those kind of things. But the actual enforcement of motorcycle riding in the city of Calimesa, I just do not have the consistency. We get 8-year-olds, 11-year-olds, I hate to say. Dad is often nowhere to be found, and they're screaming off of Singleton into the hills, and for lack of a better term, flipping off the deputies, no helmet, and they're gone. Well, we can't catch them. That's just a reality, even if we wait around. As we find, the guys get other calls and more important things to do. So I will ultimately say that is very much a challenge for us in the city where I don't have a large operation. So I feel very fortunate that we don't, but I do take those calls, and I recognize it, and I'm sensitive to it too, obviously being a local, seeing of our Oak Valley North area and some of those that do get occasional riders. it's that onesie twosie problem that for us, it does. It becomes difficult for me to push a button on a 20-man team rolling out and then them twiddling their thumbs, or maybe catching an 8 and 11-year-old that we often see. And so those parts of things, I'm sensitive to it. We are monitoring it constantly and figuring out, okay, what day could I even bring in my station crime suppression team? We have a side-by-side and other stuff, but I still struggle with it as we look at the consistency of it. And so keep it in mind. I do look for your guys' calls and those kind of things as well, kind of giving us pointed on-site direction. But that part of things, I do. I just wanted to share that also with the public because I just don't have that giant problem, but I know it is there because, of course, we see it, we hear it, we get, I will say, wave 2 as they go off into the distance of San Mateo Canyon, and they're gone. And so, Councilwoman, I see you want to make, yes,
I
yes,
do,
go
I
ahead,
do.
absolutely. That's why I bring it up.
I'm sorry that I missed our public.
That's okay.
Workshop, our public safety workshop. I had a family emergency, but we all get stopped by our constituents at the
Yeah.
market, at the cleaners, and what
Yeah,
have you.
yeah.
And I, the same, I live up in a open space area.
Yeah.
And I do talk to my neighbors because, you know, we all want to coexist.
Of course.
And so neither group is angry with the other.
Good.
And just like you say, it's a sporadic kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
usually right after the rains when the motorcyclists want to go up and
I agree with you.
spin the tires.
Yes.
But we, you know, it's a matter of us all just coexisting. We all live here because of the ruralness
Yes,
here. And we
correct.
all want to live the life that we want. That's why we bought here. And so I work with the neighbors and try and communicate that to them. And so far,
I
there hasn't
appreciate you
been-
adding that.
There hasn't been any angry
Good.
confrontations. They're just annoyed with, you know, they want to,
The-
of course.
I'll get the noise, or I'll
Right,
get the,
right.
hey, motorcycles were
Because
in our
I get
way.
it too, but
Yeah.
it's live and let live for me, and
Yeah.
so, but I just want to let you know that I do talk to
Good.
them, and they're not angry with each other, we're
Good.
just all trying to communicate.
Good, fantastic.
so,
Good.
thank
I'm
you.
happy to hear you say that.
Thank you.
No, largely, crime trends were very good and stable for the week. And so beyond that, I really have nothing further to report as we went pretty extensive in my area recently, unless anybody else has anything.
I
Go
have a
ahead.
question. Well, this is for the general public.
Yeah.
Why is it that you are not supposed to chase motorcycle riders?
Yeah, so we have a policy on the agency, all law enforcement, pretty much across California for us. We have just found the risk of public safety and the actual citizenry, their safety far outweighs us sporadically and erratically chasing motorcycles. And those parts of, you know, we talked about flock cameras and us gaining tools to make it so that we can find bad guys later and making it so that we don't endanger the public. That really is what it becomes the reality of that. And so as we watch some of these LA media chases and some of the crazy things that we all know, man, they've identified the bad guy. They have information. What are they doing? The risk to public actual safety itself is far greater for us, and so that's why we have policies in place that quite frankly we executives have drafted in making it so that the guys are protected in doing a chase of a motorcycle, and that motorcycle, heaven forbid, center punches somebody crossing the street, or we do the same during the pursuit that we're so trying to avoid, and so that largely is why. Yeah.
I would just urge everybody, please get your
Yeah.
children to wear their helmets and stay off of the street.
I
That
agree,
would be great.
I agree. That's a good point. That's the end of my report. Thank you.
Fire chief.
Mayor, members of the council, good evening. I'll start off with some stats for tonight. Total responses year-to-date are at 642, as opposed to last year at the same day, 577. So I reported an 11% increase last month with the numbers, and right now we keep trending 15% increased over the calls for service last year. 62% medical aids for 423, and 22% for 152 between the medical aids and the miscellaneous calls for public assist, for a total of 84% of our calls. Fire responses year-to-date, 18 for a total of about 2.6%. So we're trending about the national average. Automatic aid given 31 responses, counseled 15 times for, we're counseled about 50% of the time we're responding to our neighbors. And those numbers look like about a 5-to-1 ratio, because this year we've only received 3 responses into the city. So that's probably a good thing. Our average response time still trends at about 6 minutes, 43 seconds from dispatch to arrival time in the city. We touched on that at the public safety workshop. Responded to a residential structure fire, automatic aid into Ukaipa on the 3rd, and then vehicle fire I-10 and County Line here. Only real significant calls other than the minor medical aids that we've been running. Kind of transition to our community risk reduction weed abatement initiative. If you take a look, we can all see the grass is definitely growing tall. We're going to keep talking about that. Now it's time to take a look at what's curing and how it's curing. The foxtails usually first to go. We notice them turning brown, and we start getting concerned when the buckwheat and or the some of the mustard, when the pretty yellow mustard weeds, when they start turning, we're in trouble. It's time to really start taking a look. We get those 3 days of consecutive heat, high temps, 90 and 100 and above. We start getting concerned in the afternoons. The onshore diurnal winds coming in onshore, and then of course the Santa Ana time. So I urge people to go out, take a look. We're really focused with Public Works on the I-10 corridor. We've had some feedback and some work from Caltrans. We know started working on the embankments and whatnot. Our Public Works folks have been taking a look at Calimesa Boulevard, the Calimesa corridor, and we kind of changed the flavor a little bit. We're taking a look at some things that we might call blight, getting back to that community risk reduction and contacting property owners, see if we can get some of the stuff that's been there for a minute that we just don't notice on the day-to-day, and we get used to looking at and going out and talking with property owners. On a positive note going forward, I'm working with Chief Malinowski in the city of Ukaipa. We're in constant conversation, and we are working through the auto aid agreements and changing the nature of some of those conversations that occurred in the past. And we'll be reaching out through the city attorney's office, fire ad hoc, and then council, trying to take a look at how we can provide better continuous, reliable service to both communities here. Thought that I'd have something tonight, but in the month or two to come, we'll definitely be broaching that subject. Going back to the workshop with, we talked about the concept of community risk reduction, some of the concerns and programs going. Based on the outcome of that meeting and some of the attendees, we've had some response from the faith-based community through some active organizations. The Ministerial Association, talking about needs. They've been meeting regularly, addressing some of the same concerns that we did. And we're taking a look at some of the CERT/Citizens Patrol opportunities, and there's definitely interest growing in that. And not in just Calimesa, but some Ukaipa overtones with some of the historical relationships that our cities have enjoyed. And pending your questions, that's the end of my report.
I'm really happy to hear that you guys are starting to talk with them.
Yeah, we're
Hopefully
making
that
some
works
progress.
out.
I'm confident. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but we're getting there.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, public hearings. Speaker slips are encouraged brief and remain within the established time limits of 3 minutes per speaker. And I am going to continue the public hearing on approving a report on the cost services. Will?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This is a continued public hearing from April 15th, and as we go through this presentation, you'll be able to see the timeline that we followed with how we got here to tonight. So we last did our user fee study back in 2014, and then we did a small update to our fee schedule, but it was just a change in methodology. It didn't actually change any of the fees. It just was kind of a change in methodology there. In January of 2023, the council approved a contract with Matrix to provide the services for the cost allocation plan and for the user fee study. And so the first time we shared this public was back in November, so almost 6 months ago. So this should not be new to anyone. We did follow that up after council feedback and had a fee study workshop on January 29th. And then on that we followed up again where we made our final recommendations for the fees that you see before you tonight. And then of course we had a continuance of the April 15th, 2024 hearing to tonight. So let's look at the type of fees. We have regulatory fees that are defined by state code. So we have a couple of examples listed there. And then user fees is probably the majority of what we cover in our new fee schedule. And these are the typical costs of providing services. And this is staff time and then then administrative overhead costs that are within that as well. Deposits are paid up front, so that's where the level of work can vary widely or is substantially expensive. So we just charge a deposit up front and then charge against that deposit for actual fees, and then the admin overhead fee percentage is also charged on top of that. So when we talk about the cost allocation plan and adoption of the overhead percentage rate, that's what we're talking about there. For full cost recovery, that's where we render a specific service. We see this in the fire department, for example, for certain services rendered, and then bill based on it. Usually is delineated by an hourly rate within the fee schedule, and then again that overhead percentage is applied to that as well. And then finally penalties, and there's not a lot of penalties that are in here. It's specifically related to administrative penalties for the fire department. So not included in penalties are things such as administrative citations, things like that are defined in the municipal code. So let's look at some of the fee highlights. So the basis for, there are very strict guidelines and frameworks that are defined in state law that really, define how we set our rates. And so then at that point, then it becomes a policy decision. That kind of sets the ceiling of what we can charge. And it's based on our costs incurred. So then we want to make sure that we balance our cost recovery with the burdening of businesses, residents, and development. So we do that by evaluating specific benefit versus general benefit. And there are some fees that we don't set at 100% intentionally to account for that. And then also for existing fees, we're very sensitive to sharp increases in fees. So we came up with some compromises to kind of make sure that we're not, bringing in fees that are going to be really, really high, or at least huge increases to existing fees. So I'll explain how that works as we go along. So for the fire department, we had a significant number of, or actually all those fees are new. So this is based on, kind of dovetailing off of the community risk reduction approach. These fees are now, now that we have our own fire department, when we adopted our fee schedule last time, we did not have a fire department. So a lot of those services were provided by CAL FIRE and paid directly to CAL FIRE. So now we obviously need to bring these costs in. And again, to kind of balance that public benefit versus specific benefit, we're recommending setting those cost recoveries at 75% of cost. And this is within other cities where we see it in about a 50 to 80% range. A couple of exceptions to that are the cost recovery fees rates and the EMS first responder fee. And then for the fire department, this is where I talked about we have our alarm nuisance penalty. Initially, we had set the first alarm, the first response at $387, and council had recommended that we actually just do a warning first. So then after the first warning, the second call out would then be charged with that first response. So, and then we tiered the responses down accordingly for that. So looking at our building planning and public works, we did set deposits at 100% because this represents the minimum anticipated level of work, and then we rounded it by $100 just for ease of use. So we didn't want to have a deposit that was like, $10,257. We would just set it at $10,200 or $10,300, depending on how we rounded it off. For smaller deposits, we rounded to the nearest $10 again, just for ease of use. And then we did set new fees at 100% cost recovery because when you look at building, planning, and public works, those areas tend to have very high percentages of cost recovery when you look at other cities. And then for existing fees, we kind of did it in a series of buckets. So first one is if the current fee is higher than the cost, obviously you bring down the fee to 100% of cost. That one's the pretty obvious one because we can't charge more than what the cost of the service we're providing. So this is an example of one of those that we actually are reducing the cost in. When the fee is lower the cost, we have three different criteria. We set it at 100% cost recovery if the increase is 50% or less. So the pre-engineered patio cover is an example of this. So it goes from $254 to $372 for a difference of 46%, and that gets us to our full cost recovery. If 100% cost recovery results in a greater than 50% increase, then we set the cost recovery to achieve a 50% increase. So for miscellaneous building minimum permit fee, it went the full cost was $173, so that would be more than a 100% increase. So what we did was we set it at 67% of cost, which achieved a 50% difference. Then finally, in no case though did we want the cost recovery to be less than 50%, because part of the reason that you update your fee study and your fee schedule is to make sure that you're keeping up with costs. So if we set it at such a low amount that it's going to be really hard to catch up with cost recovery for those things, we still want to set it at that. So here's an example where even at a 50% cost recovery, it's still more than a 50% increase. So it's a 53% increase in this case. For our business license, the tax ordinance was adopted when our city was incorporated. So this is a little bit different. This is actually treated as a tax. And then subsequently, Proposition 218 was passed by California voters in 1996. So it requires that general purpose taxes, like a business license, be approved by voters. But it did allow kind of a grandfathering in of old taxes. So since our rate was set before July 1st, 1995, we're allowed to keep it. However, if we wanted to change it, if we wanted to increase it, we would have to then go to a vote we'd have to go to a general vote of the public. So therefore, we are going to keep it at the $24, but just to give you information, the cost of processing a business license for an inside city business is $148. Outside the city is $58. That's staff time for reviews, things like that. So especially for inside city, a number of departments have to look at that. Planning has to look at it, Public Works has to look at it, sometimes Fire has to look at it for different requirements, and so all of that time adds up. So that is the cost, and we're not allowed to recover cost for a business license specifically. There was a decision in San Diego that prevented cities from doing that because it was considered a tax. So therefore, we essentially eat those costs. We do recommend keeping the business license structure, even though it's going to kind of quote unquote losing money on it. The biggest benefit we do have is keeping track of what businesses we have in town, what they're doing. That's very important, especially for the fire department, to ensure that we have an understanding of what a business is doing when they respond to a fire, for example. So we still want to at least recover some of that cost. So that's why we just recommend that the business license be remaining at $24 and that we continue the program. We have a number of surcharges that we're adding right now. We have we're recommending a 3.5% credit card convenience fee. Our cost was calculated in the fee study at 5.14%, but finance staff has worked hard to try to get that percentage lower, so we get lower to that 3.5%. 3.5 still will not be a full cost recovery, but it will be a much higher substantial percentage than it was previously under the 5.14%. So they've done a good job of reducing those fees, working with our credit card processing companies to do that. We have a general plan maintenance fee of 0.67% of permit valuation, and then a technology fee of 5% of permit fee. So the council on April 1st approved a new software from OpenGov to help us process our permits. So this fee basically offsets the cost of that, because obviously if we did not issue permits, we wouldn't need to have the software. So it's an annual license. So there is a benefit to those permit issuees that benefit from the use of that software, as it allows us to process for them. So now moving on to our indirect cost recovery rate. Our current rate is 10%, and that's kind of a de minimis rate. That's kind of a standard minimum that cities are allowed to charge. It's tied to the Office of Management and Budget, the administrative fees we can recover from grant programs, and so that's usually the floor. You can then do a cost allocation plan to figure out a higher percentage at that point. Our full cost allocation plan came up with a rate of 25.26%, and then our OMB compliance cost allocation plan came in at 18.6%. So that's what we can use for federal grants. So there's a little bit of a different calculation. So staff is recommending that we use the lower rate, which is the 18.6%. Two benefits of that: number one, it's closer to surrounding cities, but number two, it also allows us to use one rate for all cost recovery for indirect costs. So it just makes it a little bit easier for administration. That fee will be calculated on an annual basis because it's based on fiscal year 21-22 numbers. So once we will update that annually. So there will be a slight change of that from year to year. But we're going to ensure that if at any point that it exceeds our full cost allocation plan, we probably would revert to using that. So we'd always want to use the lower of the two. That would be staff's recommendation. Then future increases have to be also authorized by City Council, but the fee study does build, the resolution does build in the ability for us to calculate it based on CPI. This will allow the city to recover more costs over time, and also any fees that we're not setting at 100%, we're going to try to phase in those increases so that over time we hopefully get to 100% on some of these fees without overwhelming any of our users. But again, the fee increases in the future are not automatic. The CPI is just a mechanism that allows the city to apply that in the future, but the City Council must approve that every year. And we do intend to bring this on an annual basis to update so we don't fall behind like we did now. We don't want to see these sharp increases, so it's always good practice to try to keep up with the cost of inflation, things like that, so that when we do a study again in 3 to 5 years, that we're not having to do these big jumps again like we're doing now. So we're trying to prevent that in the future. So on your recommended actions, I do want to point a couple of things out. Resolution 2024-10 is what adopts not only adopts the cost allocation or the study, the cost allocation plan, and the fee schedule as presented. But on the dais, you'll find a new copy of the resolution, and we did make a change, and I do want to explain why. So there's a new section 12 called exceptions, and so I do want to get a little background on that. So going back to the fact that this was a continued hearing, it was continued as requested by both Southern California Edison and SoCalGas. And so we did give that time. We did receive some feedback as to fees they were concerned about, and then we provided feedback on that last week. And then today about 1 o'clock we received a letter from an attorney challenging our fee structure. But I do want to point out a couple of inaccuracies in this letter. Just on the first page, it refers to this as ordinance number 2021-10. This is obviously a resolution, not an ordinance, and it's 2024-10. It says that the city is unilaterally imposing these fees, as prepared by Matrix Consulting Group in April 2024. As you can see, as you saw from our timeline, this has been prepared over a good amount of time, and this is something that's been in front of the council on and off for the last 6 months, so it's not like it's anything new. And that we apparently refused to remove the item from the city council meeting and agenda scheduled for this evening, which was today, despite the request from SCE and SoCal Gas. That is not true. They had requested that for 3 weeks ago. We granted that request, and I never received any request to continue the item or have this removed for tonight. So I do want to point that out. And lastly, it does talk about a couple of examples of fees. It says they impose a lane closure fee of $653. I looked at the study. These are actually combining 2 different fees into one, and they would only apply, that's a per day charge. And they added those together and they weren't even added up correctly. The total was actually different than that. And then there's a trench cut and underground utilities fee, which they added up the 3 fees that were listed for 3 different lengths. So you pay one fee for 0 to 100 linear feet. You pay a different fee if your trench's length is 101 feet to 1,000 feet, and you pay a different fee if it's over 1,000 feet. And then just for good measure, they also added in the deposit for any other encroachment permits that are not covered, and that's a deposit. They added those 4 together and called that the trench cut and underground utilities fees. The greatest amount they would pay for that would be probably about $1,100, not $3,052. So, and that's just kind of an cursory review of the letter. So there's a number of inaccuracies here that I wanted to point out, but nonetheless, based on this letter and in deference to our partners at our utility companies, we did add a section in the resolution that is on the dais for you that is part of staff's recommendation to basically say that if there's anything in state law, federal law, the Calimesa Municipal Code, or the applicable franchise, that if there's anything that that the franchisee is exempt from a fee, that they will be exempt from that fee. So we'll obviously have to work with them to determine what those fees are, but that exemption is, or that exception is now written into the resolution. So staff's recommendation for approval of this would include that change. And one last change I'd like to point out as well, in section number 11, it says the effective date is 60 days, takes effect 60 days following the adoption of the resolution. Originally, because we had presented this so far in the past, we thought we'd have plenty of time before July 1st. Well, now July 1st, 2024 is now less than 60 days from today. So the effective date now would be July 8th, 2024. So that is also reflected in this revised resolution. That concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Okay.
Not a question, just a comment. I think that this represents a fair improvement to our fee schedule. I know we've seen many iterations of this now, but it was our fee schedule was extremely outdated, and so having gone through these iterations, I think it's a reasonable schedule that we have before us now. It's balanced. It tries to strike that balance between cost recovery and public service, which I appreciate, and I think the public would appreciate that. We're not recouping 100% of our fee, but we're going to be in a better position financially with this fee schedule. So I think if there's no oppositions to this resolution, I'd like to make the resolution as amended. That is all.
This is a public, yeah, we have to,
I'm
we have to
sorry,
conduct
yeah,
the
go.
public hearing, yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a comment. We always want to work with our partners, our utility companies, because what we want to do for communities is just like what we want to do for communities, what's best for our residents. And so I'd like to hear from either of you if you have any comments, because I think we are respective of your issues and your comments, and just like we are for our city. So,
They're going to speak.
good. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I've got, go to public testimony, and I'll go with Adam, I give up.
Adam's the SoCal gas guy.
Yeah, I know that part. The last name is what I give up on.
Honorable Mayor and City Council and staff, thank you for, first off, allowing that continuance from April to allow us to review a very complex schedule of fees. We very much enjoy working with the city of Calimesa, and you guys are terrific partners. We still do have some objections to the fee structure as it stands now. However, with that amendment, that helps a bit. Many of the fees that are proposed, most would be covered under our franchise agreement anyway. However, there are a few that still stand out that we have some objection to. That being said, happy to work with you guys, dial things in. I do applaud the fact that as somebody who works with 20 different cities in western Riverside County, it's great that you guys are addressing this issue and having the long-range vision to make sure that you adjust yearly so that you don't have these giant spikes in fees that does become problematic over time. So well done there. But we do, as it stands now, object. I haven't had a chance to see the letter. I've been responding, sorry for the informal dress, I've been responding to a emergency out in Menifee. So anyway, thank you for the time, and look forward to working with you more. Hope that we can dial in this fee structure a bit more. Understand that your time frame is coming right up in 60 days. So anyway, thank you for the time. Appreciate it. Take care.
And your dress is very adequate, believe me. If you look around here, tell me how many ties you see.
I'll take this moment to remind folks to dial 811 before they dig.
Yeah.
Because somebody just dug into a 4-inch gas line in Menifee, which is being handled.
Oh, I
yeah.
wiped out the city of Torrance.
Yeah.
On-
So anyway,
on phone
it's a
lines.
little off message,
Yeah.
but anyway, thank you for the opportunity
Yeah.
to speak tonight.
Thank you. Okay. Ms. Flores, SEE.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and City staff. Eileen Flores with Southern California Edison, and I pretty much echo everything that my counterpart at the gas company stated. Number one, we do appreciate that you made the amendment for the exception, as we do believe that many of the fees are covered under our annual franchise agreement and the franchise fees that we do pay to the city. There are some other ones, as Adam said, that we also do object to, but we would love to have that further conversation with the city so that we can have a better understanding about the different fees. But also, you know, we enjoy working with the city of Calimesa. You guys are great partners, and we do want to thank you for graciously continuing this when we had requested this a couple of weeks ago. And then also, just as a reminder, I've said this many times before, that Calimesa is one of my favorite cities, but don't tell anyone that. So I really do appreciate you all working with us, and we look forward to meeting with you all to discuss the fees a lot further. Thank you.
And you're one of our favorite Edison reps, so, and
I
we've
know
seen
you-
quite a few.
I was going to say, I know you say that to every SCE person. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
With that, I'm gonna, huh? That's it? I'm gonna close the public hearing and go on to any communications or get some motions, one of the two.
I could just have a question, I guess for the city manager, just some clarification. So after this, the amendment was made, just a little more clear on what kind of fees are associated with that amendment, and then what fees, I guess, based on their comments, would still possibly be like outside of that amendment. Or they didn't really necessarily list specific concerns.
Given the fact that I received the letter 5 hours ago, I think there was a couple that we had, and it's in the correspondence, it's one of the attachments to the staff report, I think it's attachment H, that was public comments, and so there was several highlighted fees in there. I speculate that it might be those, but it's basically, the language is very broad, and we did that purposely, because we wanted to make sure that we cover all of our bases. So I think that at this point, it would just be a matter of us speaking with both utilities to determine which fees are covered under, and then, probably, Quinn will be helping out with that as well, determining which fees. So I really don't have an answer for you, because number one, this was just brought to our attention this afternoon, the urgency of the legal piece of it anyway. But number two, the language is broad enough that it allows us to kind of have interpretation on that. So it's things that we'll talk with them and come to an agreement on. So, I also like to point out, this is not anything that we are adding is not out of the ordinary, and it's, there's plenty of other cities that are charging these fees, and again, it's not for, the fees that are in our study, and I was very purposeful in making that language clear, is that we're talking about staff time. So we're talking about like a trenching fee, for example. That's the cost of us reviewing plans and then doing follow-up inspections to make sure that the trenches are patched to our specifications. We're not asking for additional pavement to be done or things like that. Some of the cases that were pointed out here are related to, I believe, Quinn, and this is maybe getting into your realm a little bit, but they're related to when they want to pave when the city wants them to pave the entire length of a road or entire width of a road, correct?
Yes, and when you're done, I have a few things to add. So,
I go ahead, please.
okay, yeah. So typically the cases are on restoration fees, like if there's like a cut so big, the city would want them to build the whole road. But as both of the representatives have said, many of the fees are covered under the franchise. They still have issues with a few of the fees. And part of the resolution is that it gives the city manager the discretion, if there's any ambiguity, to rule on those additional fees. And so I'm sure we can work it out with them. It just will require some discussion with them as they've requested, which ones you don't feel are part of the franchise and you still have problems with.
Well, I have a question. So is, based on their comments, and if you are going to consider readdressing the issue that they have, will that change the calendar date, the effective date?
No, because it's how there is discretion for me to how, when there's ambiguity, to how we apply the resolution once it's already in force. So we're very confident in the figures that Matrix calculated, because they were based on extensive interviews with staff and reviewing of documents and information, and also reasonableness. So, the nice thing about having a company like Matrix having done our report is the fact that they have a large database of other clients they've helped as well, and so they know if we say it takes us 5 hours to do something that should take an hour, they'll be able to say, are you sure? Does that really take you that long? And the reverse is true as well. So we're very confident that the fees in here are, match our cost of providing each of the services that are delineated in here. And so that would be the only thing that would need to be changed. But I don't think I don't know if it's, they may challenge and they may say that they don't believe the cost is this high for something. But we do have the administrative record to show that is the case. So I don't think that the city council approving the resolution and then us working with them because it's either they're gonna have to pay the fee. It's gonna determine they're gonna have to pay a fee or they're not gonna have to pay a fee. I think that's really what it's gonna come down to, and that doesn't affect whether or not we can make this effective July 8th. That we'll still go forward with that. And always in abundance of caution, if there's still a dispute on something that we think that should be charged or they shouldn't, we probably would just waive it or at least suspend it in that particular case until we make that determination.
Thank you.
I'll just give my comments on it. But this particular issue, it sounds like we can continue to work on that, so I'm comfortable with that, and we'll, be reasonable with that and continue to work with the city manager and the attorneys on that very specific issue. The rest of it that we've been working on for quite some time, kind of echo what Jeff was saying. I think we kind of came to a good compromise on a lot of these things, so I think everything's pretty reasonable with the remainder of it, so I'm comfortable with where it's at currently.
And if I'm understanding what I'm hearing correctly about the added Section 12 exceptions, is that this does not preclude us from having further discussion with our utility companies, and it's going to be at your discretion to have those conversations and determine what fees which fees are covered by the franchise fee, and then which ones might not be, correct?
Correct.
So nothing we decide here today is going to preclude those discussions moving forward.
Right, and then by the way, Section 10 of the resolution is where it talks about the city manager having the authority to interpret the provisions of the resolution. So I think that's where, so between Sections 10 and 12, we'll be able to cover it.
Okay. Well, I'm comfortable with it too.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution number 2024-10 as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Okay. We'll move on to
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
before
sir.
we move on from that, I just do want to clarify one thing for the record. One of the things that we also recommended and approved was the out-of-town business license is currently $48, and it's for no other reason that the business is out of town. That obviously, what we determined is that we probably shouldn't continue that practice. So that's part of this fee too. But what we want to do though is instead of waiting until July 8th to lower that, we're just going to go ahead and lower it right away. I think that's fair. I think that's fair for the businesses. So I think waiting another 2 months doesn't make a lot of sense. So I just wanted to let the council know that's the direction we're going to go in. So I just wanted to have that on the record. Thank you.
Can I get a consensus or approval?
Yeah, absolutely.
I approve.
Thank you.
Okay, you got it. Okay. Business items. Item 11, Mountain View Park construction contract. Who's doing this?
This will be
Ms.
presented.
Shakira?
Did you say it right?
I didn't hear it.
I won't say it again then.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. I'm just here to discuss the construction budget for our Mountain View Park project. The city received 8 bids for construction for this project, with the lowest bid coming in at $2,421,000. The city also decided, or city staff also decided, to procure certain items on our own and not have the contractor do it to avoid contractor markup. These items include the prefab restroom, a seat wall, the shade structure, some benches, tables, items like that. Those amount to about $724,000. We're also looking at a 10% contingency, which is $242,000, and then also adding in our project management 8%. Brings us to about a total cost for the project at $3,619,000, $178,000. Why can't I say that right? Sorry, 3.6 million. So our available funds that we have right now is in our DIF fund, as well as a grant that we have, our Prop 68 grant. with those two items, we're gonna probably need about 161,000 more dollars appropriated from our general fund. And yeah, I think that's about it. If you have any questions about that, or if Will wanted to further elaborate on.
What was the total on the budget? Because mine says 2,997,000.
Yeah, so the construction budget is 2,997,956, plus the 621,222 for the purchase of the modular bathroom. So those are just listed as separate items for the recommendation part.
You always just dig a hole and put a
We could do that as well.
I do want to clarify on the budget differential. You know, we kind of talked about this a lot back and forth with staff, and ultimately, you know, I think we might have been able to try to cut, you know, either reduce the contingency. You know, the contractor we're using has a very good track record of not doing change orders, or at least substantial change orders. So, you know, our contingency should be very solid. So we talked about, you know, do we reduce that? Do we do some value engineering? But we've gone back and forth so much on this project, and we've got it just the way we want it. I decided, you know what, let's just bring it forward with the budget increase. We have the funds available to pay for it. And if, you know, this is a big project for us, so I want to do it right. So, you know, we've really dialed in the design. We got it just the way we want it. So making any changes just to try to cut the budget at this point just didn't seem to make any sense. So that's why we're recommending the budget increase.
Do we have a final date on when, do they have a date on when they completion?
We're hoping less than a year, but we do have a pole relocation on site from Edison, so we'll see with that.
good luck. Oh, they left.
I just wanted to make a comment. It sounds like a very good move to expedite the project, and just like Will says, get it the way we want it. And so I thought that was very good planning. Good work. Thank you.
I'll just add, I know we've been back and forth on this for quite some time, so it is like Will said, you know, we put a lot of work, and it's just how we like it, even though, you know, we had to make adjustments. I know staff worked to cut things as much as they could, but, you know, I think I'm good with the current situation. We move forward, and it's going to, you know, it is a big deal, and it's a substantial cost overall for the city, but it's going to be a really nice project. So it'll be nice to get it done eventually here. So I'm comfortable with the current situation.
Eventually there, right?
Yeah.
I actually had one more comment. It's kind of a trend that our city staff follows. Our fire chief did the same thing with his procurements, and he's done very, very well, and has saved us a lot of money, and we have what we want. So good work to the staff. Thank you.
Okay, I got one person wants to put their 2 cents in, Howard Reeves.
Mr. Mayor, Council, and City staff. My name is Howard Reeves. I live at 1017 Douglas Street, where I have resided for the last 57 years. Today is a great day as far as I'm concerned. In the 33 years that Calimesa has been a city, this is going to be the first recreational park for the community of Calimesa, meaning kids, adults, and seniors, by putting that pickleball court in, plus that large grass area for other activities. And I want to congratulate the city staff. I know Will's brand new, so I can't give him much credit. He just did what he was told.
Oh.
And but the city staff from over here and behind me, and the Park and Trails and Community Service Commission, which we lost John, he ran out on us, but we've worked a long time on putting this thing together. And they need to have a pat on the back because they've done a great job. And for this council, I hope you step up to the plate tonight and do something that has not been done in 33 years for this community, to have some kind of recreation for your citizens. And tonight's a historical night for all 5 of you council members. So I want to give you a great big pat on the back, and I hope you don't disappoint me when that motion's made tonight. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, just,
Yeah,
I
go for
want
it.
to just emphasize what Howard said, because our commissioners sometimes don't get the notoriety and attention that they deserve. And so our Parks and Trails commissioners work tirelessly on this project and have put in lots of hours in reviewing it and giving their perspective and on it. And so I want to thank them for their efforts as well and your dedication to this project. All our commissioners who worked hard on this deserve some recognition for that. So thank you.
My only question, I was trying to figure out what that little park they put in over there on the other side of the freeway, what was that? Anyway, that's sarcasm. Can I get a motion?
Can we make one motion for all 4? Yes. Okay, I would like to move that we approve items 1 through 4 for Mountain View Park Construction Contract Award.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I-10 Cherry Valley Boulevard interchange plans, specifications, and estimates.
Thank you, Mayor. As Mike comes up to the podium, this is another pretty significant milestone for the city in the long life that is the Cherry Valley Interchange project. So I'll let our city engineer, Mike Thornton, present that.
Good evening, council. So I will be very brief. I promised Will I would be very brief. Just a little bit for the public. In getting a project under construction to the point where we can start construction, there is a 4-step process with Caltrans. The first 2 steps we've completed. We have an approved environmental document. We had partnered with the County of Riverside to get to this stage. When we completed the 2nd stage, we had decided that we didn't see the continued value of contracting with the county. So we terminated our contract with the county and we went out to the private sector directly. The private sector RFP, as we refer to it, is for plan specifications and estimate. This is the 3rd step in the process. Just for the public's benefit, the 1st step is a study report. The 2nd step is called project approval environmental document. 3rd step is plan specifications and estimates, and the 4th step is right-of-way acquisition. When all 4 of those steps are completed, we can then bring on a contractor and start construction of the project. The RFP that we distributed, we received 3 responses. We reviewed those 3 responses and found 2 of the 3 candidates qualified. We interviewed those 2 candidates. We found one rose above. The other one's pretty much across the board, meaning all 3 panelists said, yes, that is the right firm to go with. They did a much better job during the interview, so they were selected. That is M&S that we are suggesting tonight. The amount that they are proposing is quite a hefty sum of money. $3.65 million is what we're asking council to approve tonight. The funds for the project are coming by way of WRCOG past zone funding. It'll pay for a major portion of it, together with a credit agreement for the Summerwind development. Will continue to help us pay for the costs. So tonight we are asking council to approve the mayor executing an agreement with M&S. I'm available to answer any questions.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, I just want to clarify something that Mike had said about a ton of credit agreement. And so I just wanted to clarify what that is. So, developer has to pay into the transportation uniform mitigation fee program through WRCOG for improvements to regional transportation facilities. And so there's two ways, two major ways a developer can fulfill their obligation. The first is to pay the fee directly to WRCOG, and that fee is then broken up into four ways. Part of it goes to the pass zone, which is the cities of Calimesa, Beaumont, Banning, and a portion of Riverside County. And then another part of it goes to RCTC for regional projects. Part of it goes to RTA for public transportation. And finally, a portion of it is retained by WRCOG to administer the program. The second way is through a credit agreement. So a developer can enter into an credit agreement with both the city and WRCOG so that any costs that they incur with a specific improvement, they get credit for against their TUMP 100%. So essentially what that means is that their obligation is fulfilled by paying for these types of improvements. So, and that's the case that we have here with Gen SoCal, who is the current owner and developer of the Summerwind Ranch master plan. So just wanted to clarify what that means and in the different ways that TUMP is paid. And it's a significant amount. Right now, the TUMP, for example, for residential is just a hair over $10,000 per house. So it's a significant amount. But again, it's it's determined to have development pay for the impacts that they have. As more houses are built, more people are here, more cars are here, more traffic gets on the freeway, so you need infrastructure improvements. So that's why the program exists. So I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get a motion, or anybody does any other questions?
I'll make the motion.
Oh, okay. I was just going to make a statement that I was at WRCOG today, and I talked to Mike, and I know we have all our ducks in a row to get this moved forward as quickly as we possibly can. And they did say that if one project wasn't ready, they would move on to the next city, but I'm very confident that we're ready to move forward. So I'm excited about it.
So maybe just to add, the schedule for completion of this phase in the proposal that M&S gave the city is 14 months.
Okay. Get the motion?
Yep. I'll make a motion to adopt staff's recommendation.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
It's the Mike Show again.
Item number 13.
So I didn't mention on the last item, but I did put on the screen just a aerial photograph of an improved interchange. For the public's benefit, this is the the Singleton Road I-10 interchange where we have two missing ramps that the purpose of the project is to get those installed. The interchange was going to be improved by the local developer, the Oak Valley Town Center project. The developer on that project has ceased operations. So what the city did was step in. We'll do a little bit more history. We did receive $2 million from the WRCOG zone for the project for construction of the ramps. We're relying on the developer to do all of the processing with Caltrans and pay the design costs, so those were not budgeted. Last year during the budget process, staff went to the WRCOG zone meeting and got $3 million added to the project for a total of $5 million. At that time, all those funds were intended to be used for construction, again relying on the developer to get us through the Caltrans process. When he ceased work, we went back to the COG and asked if we could move some of those funds to design, environmental compliance processing, and right-of-way, although we don't think we have a significant right-of-way acquisition. An independent project was what is referred to as Calimesa Boulevard realignment, and that's that big curve that you can see on the right-hand side of the screen. We have to maintain a certain distance from the freeway ramp to the nearest intersection in order to function properly. What I mean by that is we don't want cars backing up waiting for the signal on the right-hand side to turn red and backing up onto the freeway. I have to say green. But we would, so the separation is required for stacking so that the intersection of Calimesa Boulevard and Singleton does not impact the mainline freeway operations. That said, that was approved by the WRCOG Executive Committee, of which Councilmember Hewitt is part of. I think it was at the April meeting. So we're bringing this forward to council to ask council to approve the same agreement that allows us to use a portion of the $5 million for design, environmental document, and if there is some right-of-way acquisition involved, it would include that. There is right-of-way acquisition for the realignment of Calimesa Boulevard. So that portion of the project, by marrying the two projects together, it requires right-of-way acquisition to occur. With that, I would open it up to council questions.
Who is it that didn't finish the job?
What do you, what?
Was it Caltrans that didn't put the?
Oh, you mean back in the 60s when the freeway was built?
Yeah.
We assume that that's the case. Yeah, we
Them?
we
Say,
assume
hey,
that
you know, why didn't you?
we assume what happened was back then, and this is just speculation on our part, is that there might have been cost overruns associated with the freeway, and so they kind of picked some areas to kind of cut back on costs, and that was one of the casualties. It appears to be, but as it says in the staff report, this is a functionally deficient interchange, and I mean, obviously that makes a lot of sense, right? Just from missing on and off ramps. So yeah, but that's what we speculate is there probably was. And then you get into the 70s and freeway revolts, and then now you have current policies that basically say, I can go on a soapbox for hours about that, but I will say that, now they're in a policy of, they're very anti capacity enhancement. They will not approve anything on main lines that's regular capacity enhancement, which is why that's the main reason why you see toll roads being proposed everywhere, because that's one of the exceptions they've carved out. But also, the more practical reason for those is because the amount of revenue that comes in for roads is barely covering the maintenance of those roads, and so additional capacity. A big part of the cost is right-of-way acquisition, because if you widen, you have to buy all the parcels that are associated with that adjacent to the freeway. And so the toll roads, what they do is they allow toll bonds to be sold to fund the infrastructure initially, and then you use the toll revenue to pay those bonds off. So that's how those are paid for. But truck lanes and toll lanes are the two capacity enhancements that Caltrans basically allows on the main line. And obviously, then for interchanges, we're on our own. So they said, well, that's the way it is. If you want to do if you want to add to it, you have to do that. I mean, we still have to get their approval, but it's up to the cities individually and the regional agencies to come up with the money to actually pay for those improvements.
Anybody else?
Make the recommendation that what staff recommended for item number 13.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving right along. Item number 14. League of California Cities.
So this is an item that was requested by a couple of council members to be put on the agenda for discussion. And so the staff report includes kind of a brief kind of summary of the services that are provided by the League of California Cities. Our membership is based on population, And so our membership comes out to about $6,800 a year for our costs. So I'll kind of throw it back to council for discussion on this item.
I'd like to open the discussion. As a representative to Cal Cities, over the years, as long as I've been on council, my initial interest in participating in League of California Cities, which is now called Cal Cities, was one of information. I remember when I was first on council, I questioned, I think I talked to the mayor here, I questioned why we have the relationships that we have with our county entities, and thought my first comments were, why do we pay money into these organizations? It doesn't seem like we get our fair share back because we're such a small city. The relationship with Cal Cities is one of advocacy, and so we, League of California Cities does put on training programs for newly elected officials, and they have resources that we as a city don't have. I, over the years, have become more involved with the League of California Cities, and mainly, again, for information's sake. I want to know how things work and how can we better our city by that relationship, just like we have with RCTC, SCAG, and RTA. And so I'm on a policy committee for transportation. Currently, I'm the chair or president of Riverside County Cal Cities, and I represent all 28 cities who are members of Cal Cities, because we all have our core needs as cities. We all need help in getting projects funded. We all need help and figure that it's better, more power in numbers. So much so that as president, we've linked up with San Bernardino Cal Cities and are looking at maybe getting Imperial County, which is San Diego area cities involved. Not every city likes everything that Cal Cities does or votes on. It's and for that reason, we feel like if we join numbers, we have power in numbers. And so as president of this group, we have many discussions on what works, what doesn't work. We have an annual conference that we attend to. I sit on a policy committee, and like Wendy belongs to WRCOG and Jeff attends RCA. When we go to these meetings, we bring that information back. And this is not, it's not so much just the information that these entities put out, but the conversations that we have with our other colleagues that kind of like best practices for these entities. And so we bring that back, we report to you so that you know what we're doing and how we're representing the city. So I see a lot of value in Cal Cities, the relationship we have with Cal Cities. I know that's a big hunk of change, what we pay for annual fees. And we do pay money to attend these conferences, but I think we get a lot back in what they can do for us that we can't do for ourselves. A lot of that has to do with their advocacy with the legislators in power at the time. We all know, you've heard us talk to you over the years about the bad bills that are coming out of Sacramento and how the cities are having to deal with that. Housing issues are the most horrendous right now because the governor's office is trying to force us to do things that go against local control, which is what our city has to keep, and every city wants to keep their local control. We don't want somebody who lives in Sacramento to be telling us where we should build housing, where we should build commercial, and where we should build where we don't want to build that doesn't fit into our general plan. So I've given this a lot of consideration. I think I go to these meetings again because of information. I want to make sure that we're getting what we pay into, and I think we do. But again, it's not just what Cal Cities offers, but the networking that is shared at these meetings and with other cities who are going through the very same things that we are. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I think it has value. It's not perfect. There are some cities who are considering pulling their membership because they're not happy with some of the things that Cal Cities has voted on or maybe has not voted on. But I think for our city, I think it's a good relationship, and I'm open to questions if you have any. I tried to bring back everything that I come across as a representative of our city for Cal Cities, as I do the other entities. Thank you.
I get where you're coming from with making connections, and I feel like they're based out of Sacramento, pretty much, is where they started, and I feel like they don't represent the littler cities. I mean, we're very conservative here, and they're not necessarily, we're not necessarily on the same page with them. I mean, I don't want to step on your toes, and I get where you're coming from with making connections and learning. I'd like to see something more in our area, though, that represents us and the cities around us. Do you have anything?
I'll throw some comments in there. I think they are advocating for local control, like you mentioned. I think that's the biggest issue for us. So they, at the state level, they're doing that. I don't agree with everything they take positions on, but I think that's the biggest issue is local control, and they're there at the state level. So that's what impacts this government the most, is what's happening at the state legislature. So they're doing that, which I mostly agree with. And then also the training, I think, is very good. So we get pretty significant discounts on training. So I think ongoing training for staff and for council, new and ongoing, that's important. So I think it almost pays for itself, actually, just a lot of the training that we put people through. So for those two reasons, I would support staying a member.
The trainings are invaluable. I've been to those, and I've always walked away with more knowledge and information from those. I get what Wendy's saying, though, about this. We don't want to, delegate any of our decision-making authority or power to Sacramento, but I don't necessarily think Cal Cities does that. I think they try to be a coalition of cities across the state, geographically diverse. What was there, almost 500 cities in Cal City, something like that, right? And they are for local control and city issues. And I know cities vary from geographical location to geographical location. However, it is a platform to have those conversations and to see what's going on in other cities and to advocate together about issues that are important to us, and there's more power in that. And so I found benefit in it as well.
I think you bring up a good point. One of the reasons Riverside County is partnering with San Bernardino County and possibly Imperial County is for those reasons alone. Northern California, what works for them doesn't work for us. We're not one size fits all. That's the discussion that's going, that's been our number one issue all along. We're a small rural city, and we have to fight for every project that we can apply for, and funding as well. And so for that reason, I think, because a lot of cities feel the same way that I do, and I take that message to, we have, every other month we have a member meeting with the Riverside cities, and that's an issue for everyone. And so San Bernardino feels the same way, and we're trying to get Imperial County in as well. So we figure that's going to help us in getting our message across, that it's not one size fits all. We want to keep our local control, and I think we should have somebody from Cal Cities come and make a presentation so we can ask direct questions. And I would like to offer that and get someone to come from Cal Cities at the highest level to address questions directly, if you all would like that. I think we should have that. We probably should have had that before now.
Well, I asked for this to be put on the agenda. I have no use for Cal Cities. I don't think they do a damn thing for anybody in the past. I can't see anything that they've done for anybody in the past, not just us. I don't think we have any representation, and and I don't want to knock you, Linda, but it's people have to represent the people that they're appointed by. And it's I don't know what you're doing, other than just getting a line of people to talk to or whatever. But it's we can continue with Cal Cities. I just don't, the way they're going right now, if they're going to where it's where we're going to have a separation of Cal Cities between the southern and the northern, or the eastern and the western, or what.
No, I agree with you. And this is why I my involvement is as strong as it is because I want to see if we're getting our fair share.
Well,
And-
that's what I'm
and
saying.
that's why
I
I'm
don't think,
at the table.
I don't know what our fair share is, but I just don't think they represent the pass area, period. And I just wanted to get the opinion of the council.
Yeah.
What
Oh, sorry.
were some of the things that they have done specifically, I mean, to represent us? I mean, sometimes I think these entities get so big, they're out of touch with the communities that they're supposed to represent.
Well, what I see is, Cal Cities is very good at matching up with, legislators change every 2 to 6 years. And so every 2 to 6 years, we have new laws every year. But, and it takes 2 years to get laws processed and on the books, sometimes just 1 year. And so when the bad ones come out, they gear up, they get all the cities to join and either oppose or support to give us strength in going against the bad things that are going on in Sacramento. We don't always win, but I think if we didn't do anything, we didn't step up and speak our piece about what's going on in the past cities, we would have even less than what we have. And so I put my money where my mouth is. I go to meetings, I bring the information back, and I think there's merit in what they do. Again, it's not a perfect match. They don't do everything they can't make everybody happy. They can't, suit everybody, but I think they do a fair share of working with the legislators to do the best for us. And I think we've had success with our legislators, Ken Calvert, Greg Wallace, Senator Rosalisi Bogue. I think we have good relationships with them, and they foster those relationships, and I think that's good for us. And I think it's something better than not doing anything at all or even withdrawing. Because some cities have, I think there's one city in Riverside County, Jurupa, that does not belong to Cal Cities. Only one out of 28 cities. All the others are all members. So again, I represent, I have meetings every month. Darlene and I both attend these meetings. We're trying to, I volunteered for that. I know Bill's always telling me, don't say yes, quit saying yes. But for me, it's a matter of getting information to our community. We are a small city. We don't qualify for a lot, but I think it's important enough to have us at the table and be listened to and work with other cities who have the same issues that we do, other small cities. So I think, I don't know, I think there's merit in it. I put the time in because I think it's worthy, and I hope you all think the same thing.
There's definitely merit in it, but I think that Mayor Davis and Mayor Pro Tem Hewitt make a good point that it'd be great to get a representative here and ask them the hard questions that they're proposing. Like how do you benefit Calimesa, the pass area in general? How have we benefited, and how are you working for our interests as well? I think those are some hard questions that would be worth having somebody here that can tell us point blank. Not that you haven't given us good reasons, because I think you have shown us there is merit to it, but it would be nice to ask them.
And it's not just the Cal Cities. Since I've been on this city council, I have asked, what has David Turch done for us lately? And he came and he explained that. And I am glad he did that, but the money that we put out, I want to see that we're getting our money's worth.
He's cheaper than anything you can get. So,
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to have them come out and explain to us how they're representing us.
well, just a pass. It isn't just us. It's just everybody. It's just, the city manager pointed out that they have worked on the food, something to do with the food for the lunches and things like that.
Yeah, the bill that we've been working on with Assemblymember Wallace's office on AB 2410, they did take a support position on that.
Yeah.
And so I think there's other cities that have come out in support of it as well. So yes, they have taken an official position on that and have supported it.
So there's one out of 100 that I like.
So would they be willing to come out and somebody
Yes, I will ask at the highest level.
Yeah, you and I can work on
Okay.
that, and we can
I think
work
they
on that for a
would be
future
happy
meeting.
to come out and listen to us, because they're hearing the same thing all over the state, so.
Well, everybody, you know, we're trying to stretch our dollar, so.
And some of the cities that have backed out are cities in Orange County. They have their own Cal cities.
Represent.
It's in Orange County, you know, it's, you know, and they were belonging to both of them. They don't need to belong to both of them, and so let's stop paying these guys and do our thing.
That'd be cool.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing this up.
Anybody else, anything else to say?
No, Mayor.
Okay, we'll move on then. And now we go to mayor and council members reporting. How about it, John? Anything to say?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. It's real quick. I just want to thank staff and Captain Peterson and Fire Chief O'Connell for the public safety workshop. So for anybody that wasn't able, there wasn't too many people here, so it's there. They had a great presentation. So if you want to kind of see where public safety's at, you could just watch their presentation, so you kind of know where police and fire are at currently. So that's all I have.
Linda?
I've been busy. On the 19th of April, I attended the Cal City Summer Leadership Summit in Sacramento, and we met with 3 legislators on issues that affect Calimesa. On the 22nd, I chaired the RCTC Budget and Implementation Meeting, where we previewed the 24-25 budget and approved it, and also the Citizens and Specialized Advisory Committee meetings, as well as other routine matters. On the 22nd of April, I belong to the Lions Club here in Calimesa. We had a presentation of our Myrtlewood beautification project, and I think that went very well. I thank the staff that came out to that. On April 25th, I attended RTA's Executive Committee and Board meeting, where we discussed bus stop strategies, policies, and reviewed the 24-25 budget for the full board. The board also ratified the MOU with Local 1277, the union for the employees and drivers of RTA buses that that we belong to. We're in their service area, and which shows, you know, providing benefits early. Normally, the budget, the union negotiations happen later on in the year. RTA took the position to bring it in early and get the employees their benefits early. So I thought that was great. I'm sorry I missed the public safety workshop. On May 1st, I attended the Budget and Finance Committee meeting, where there was an open hearing started for the operating and capital budgets, and the 2025-27 short-range transit plans were approved. Also on May 1st I attended on behalf of the mayor, the selection committee, and I don't know if you want the details. I provided the information to the city on the result of that. Did you want to hear what? Okay. And then on the 2nd, I attended, I was the city's delegate for the SCAG Regional Assembly in Palm Desert, and where, again, it's a networking of colleagues, and voted as a delegate for Calimesa, which was voting on the new budget, the new officers for 24-25, sustainable city awards that were presented, and also student scholarship competitions, where the winners, there were 4 winners out of 10 college students competing, where 4 winners received $1,500. And I think the staff was there ready to hire them on the spot. They're very smart brainiacs. And that's all I have.
Jeff?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I attended the RCA meeting, and we adopted our new fiscal year 24-25 operating and capital budget. It was balanced, some $63 odd million of it. And we also, something interesting, my first time I experienced this as being part of the RCA, we approved a criteria refinement. Yeah. So the Saboba Lusueño Band of Indians want to do a village project, and where they want to put the project was in a criteria cell. And so our RCA talked with them and found a comparable land elsewhere related that is of equal or superior conservation value with like species and so forth. The particular property that Saboba found was more acreage and could be habitat for more species, and so it was deemed suitable by RCA, and so we did a criteria swap and allowed them to put a new development in this criteria cell in exchange for property elsewhere. Thought it was interesting, right? That they could make those kind of trades. So that was approved today. That concludes my report.
I'd like to see that whole thing,
Right?
where and when. Okay, Wendy?
Yeah.
Yes, I attended a WRCOG monthly executive committee meeting today. They have Jackie Casillas will be the second vice chair for the year 24-25 coming up. She's city councilwoman in Corona, I believe. And then we talked about the TUMP Nexus study, which has been a big deal to me. I've really kind of been fighting it, but, you know, I'm just one person. But they're going to be releasing the draft of the TUMP Nexus study for a 30-day review, and people can comment on it. And what that talks about is all the new housing. There's going to be a fee, the mitigation, uniform mitigation fee for Riverside County, Western Riverside County. The prices per unit will be going up significantly. Although they talked about possibly charging less per square footage of each individual house, like 18,000 square feet, medium sale price is about almost 500,000. The existing fee is 10,104, and it would be going up to 15,668. Well, for an 18,000 or less square foot home, they'd have, according to AB 602, is what they were talking about, it'll be at 12,534. So it'll still be going up. So the bigger the house you purchase, and these are on the new homes. These aren't your
Yeah,
existing
I was gonna
homes.
say, I hear
These aren't your
I hear a
existing
little
homes.
bit of rustling behind me. I think that people need to understand, if you're not buying a new home, this does not apply to you.
Yeah, let's just go small, and then, you know. So then the prices, you'll be able to see on their website. They will be releasing it in a couple days, and hopefully everybody takes a look at it, and then it'll have to go for approval. If not, we'll see what happens. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Wendy. I see that the scholarship awards tea that the Chamber is putting on at Edward Dean Museum on the 23rd. So if you guys want to support for scholarships, this is, you get a meal and you help the kids go to school. So, and other than that, I don't have anything else. Mr. Coble?
Nothing else, Mayor.
Okay, with that, I'm going to thank everybody for attending, and we're going to shut this down until, what, the 13th or 20th?